your organization collect and compost the waste that people give you? Currently, we are what's called a collector. Basically, we'll collect. Either they come to us at drop-off booths, or we come to them at their curb.
Okay.
All right. We have a thing called a hub, which is kind of a hybrid thing, where let's say that the big building, that big apartment complex down there, right? Or the ones across the highway. There's a bunch of them over there.
Yeah.
And let's say that the folks who own that business understood the dynamics of what's really going on. So see, let's say they have over there or there. There's probably 200 people who live in there, at least. All right, it's a big place. In the charge for the rent for these community members, there's part of that pays for the waste removal, the dumpsters or the compactor. Okay. The heaviest component of that dumpster is food scraps. It's pretty dense. Right? Cardboard's pretty light. Food scraps, heavy. So let's assume that half the folks who live there diverted their food scraps away from the dumpster. What would that mean as far as the cost that they would now incur with half the food waste not there? Well, the cost would go down. So you wonder, why wouldn't they all want to do this? Or at least promote it? Especially if they didn't pay for it. And that's the way our hub works, is that with their job, the folks who run the facility, and this could be a condo, an apartment complex, it could be a place of work, it could be this. You know, people come here to shop, right? You know, the model is for a drop-off, because a hub is just a drop-off, basically, that somebody else manages. But at a drop-off booth, and have you seen our drop-off booths at all?
I haven't. Do you have any pictures?
During the winter, when the farmer's market was here before, okay, it would come inside. Now the farmer's market during the summer is out downtown.
Okay.
It's like the one in Delaware.
Yeah.
Theirs is downtown, right?
Got it.
During the winter, theirs closes. In the winter around here, they come inside. And so why would the mall developer owner want to have them come inside? Well, in the wintertime, traffic, except for Christmas, sucks in a mall. So how do you get people to come there every week? Put in a pop-up market.
That's
the deal.
awesome.
So during the winter, we're outside that entrance over there.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's the model that I developed, and that is where there's organic traffic anywhere. Could be here, could be a place of work, could be anywhere where there's traffic. A YMCA, a church, a school. Perfect for a school is this idea. People come to school, they drop off their kids 5 days a week, right?
Yeah.
Pick them up, right? One of those days on Friday, right? They bring their buckets, swap, and pick up their kids. Bring your bucket with you, do that chore, that job, and there's no more work because you're coming anyway for something else.
Exactly.
All right?
Yeah.
Simple, right? Now, at a hub, it could be, that's a little different in terms of, let's say the apartment complex. So right beside the dumpster, the tote is what a hub would have. Let's say you have 3 or 4. Or let's say you have 3 dumpsters over there. Beside each dumpster, you have a tote. And the folks who sign up as a subscription for the hub, they would know, on Sunday, like right now we have a hub over at the Jeffrey apartment complex and the Grant Park downtown. They go from Sunday at 2 to Monday at 2. Folks who belong to the hub, they know that that's my time, that's my window. All right. These booths, they're only for 3 hours. They're like 9 to 12. Or like today at Whole Foods, on Lainey Avenue, Whole Foods in Easton, they're from 12 to 3 and 1 to 5.
Okay, gotcha.
That's the window.
Okay.
And because they're coming to shop anyway, that's why Whole Foods loves this, because, they have to come every week. While they're here, they're going to probably shop here. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But the apartment complexes, they don't seem to get it. That all they've got to do is be the ones in charge of putting the totes out every week. That's all, because after let's say the one downtown, on Monday between 2 and 5, we come through and swap the tote and put them away. And so there's virtually no work for them to do, and they benefit because not only can they save money because it costs less for that dumpster, it has less weight, less volume is in there, right? They save money there. Well, they make money because the savings goes right to their bottom line on their books, right? Not only can they do that, they can also say to the folks who are looking for a place to live in an apartment, they don't do it. They don't do it. We do this. We offer a service. Now, granted, you pay for it yourself, but we offer. We allow them to be here with their hub, and you can participate for $6 a month.
Okay,
It's
wonderful.
cheap.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what happens if you have somebody who says, "Well, I really support the idea, but I don't generate that much." Okay, you want to get it even cheaper? Find a neighbor who's the same way. I don't generate very much. Share a bucket, share the cost. Now it's $3 a month. How does composting help reduce carbon emissions? The last couple of weeks they've had this thing in Scotland,
Okay.
right? Okay. They talk about how to reduce the methane. And then they're talking a lot about, the oil and gas industry, the agricultural industry. What they don't talk about, they should, and then they kind of hint at it, that they'll say stuff like the methane comes from landfills. What they don't say is, and you can prevent that by simply putting your food scraps into my yellow bucket or into a recycle those food scraps. Every major town has one of these. They really do. We collect compost, like I said, two ways. They come to us, we come to them.
Okay.
All right? How does composting help reduce carbon emissions? Well, as I explained there, if it goes to the landfill, it causes methane. People think, doesn't it break down in the landfill? Well, yeah, it does, but it breaks down differently.
Yeah.
It goes anaerobic, that causes methane. Methane is 25 times worse than CO2. But doesn't methane, can't you capture and use it for energy? Places do. But still, all the 90,000 tons could be recycled and reused again. And what about that? Again, there's this benefit that not only do you stop the methane, but you get to use it up. You get to use it to make better soil.
Yeah.
And what else happens? Well, the air is improved, no methane. And the water's improved, no runoff from pesticides. How was it created? Well, somebody in Athens, Ohio, where I was living at the time, in 2007, 8, 9, kept going to the farmer's market down there, the big one. And I kept hearing about this thing about composting. People in Athens would like to have it if somebody would do it. And I thought, why does somebody do it? I mean, if everyone wants it, right? and they said, well, really, it's about the money. No one has the money to invest.
Okay.
I said, if it works, well, it's a no-brainer. So I invested a good chunk of change, and just as an experiment, and it worked.
Wow.
And I actually did a pilot for the city of Athens in 2014. Last year, they actually went citywide with it.
Okay.
And of course, I had left by then. I sold it to the recycling people in the 15. And so it's just, that's how it came to be. I'm a crazy kind of a guy for doing it. I'm very passionate about, the fact that all it takes is, instead of putting it there, I mean, how hard can it be?
Yeah.
Put it over here instead. I mean, if it were complicated, I wouldn't be doing this. But it's super simple.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we stuck with, to make it easy, convenient, and affordable.
Yeah.
As long as you stick within those borders, people will come. Okay? How do I know? Well, in Bexley, where I did a pilot, did I tell you this story? About Bexley? You know where Bexley is?
Yeah.
So in Bexley in 2018, they approached us to do a pilot for the city. And so they chose, they went to each block in the city, and they had a block captain, and they had a formula to walk around. Who wants to have the opportunity to do a free pilot for curbside? And so the top 20 blocks were chosen. Whoever had more than 75% into a fishbowl put out 20 blocks, 225 people. So we did it for a whole year, and we did a few things that were they didn't expect, they really liked, and so the city said, let's go citywide. They went from 225 and 18 to 850 and 19. Just 1 week, all of a sudden you have 850 people.
Wow.
So we did 850 people, that was in 19, and in May I left the company, and by that time we had 1,100. Today they have 1,800.
Wow, that's impressive. That's amazing.
It is. And they have 4,400 total residents. They're almost approaching 50%, which is really
awesome. Yes.
okay. So, why did it work? Well, people, one, at that time you were actually swapping buckets. Now we swap liners.
Okay.
So people didn't expect the buckets to be spotless every week, and they were. Okay. And the other thing that really impressed me was this. Early on in the process of doing the pilot, I would be behind. I find myself behind the recycling truck. It was the same day. They had on the curb. They had the boxes with recycling and our yellow bucket. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was watching one day, and I watched the guy from the truck, walk over, pick up the bucket, the box or tote, walk back to the truck, dump it out, and literally swivel on their heel and you're almost, good luck landing. Pick up the full bucket, keep walking to the other side of the sidewalk, and place the plain empty one half on, half off. Half on the grass, half on the concrete. With the handle back and the label of the yeses and nos. Put the label on the bucket. No one does that. So Ray, it's only a bucket. What's the big deal? Why so nice and neat? I said, hold on. So at the end of the block, because they were done block by block, end of the block, we'll stop, we'll go to the sidewalk, and we'll have a look. What it looks like. So we did, and I said, well, what do you see? Well, of course, Ray, ours are nice and neat, and the others, they look like shit. They're all just thrown out there. And I said, who else do you think sees that? And the folks who live there. They did. They saw it. And who else might they tell? Those people who live there who saw, gee, these guys are freaks about it. They're really, nice and neat versus just whatever, which I always hate, right? They might tell the mayor. They did. So a year later, they voted us citywide.
Wow.
And you might think that was a big deal, but that was a big deal that they noticed that we were not the same. We really acted as if we cared about it. Translation, they don't care about it. They were doing recycling, and not my fault that they weren't trained that way. To be nice and neat and careful and have some respect for the folks who live there. All right? So, bottom line point there is that in any business, your effort for what you're doing, there's always these small things that if you notice, I always tell people, General Mills, they make Cheerios and Wheaties, right? They make breakfast, right? They're really good at going, hey America, what do you want next for breakfast? And then they're good at rolling it out.
Yeah.
Year after year, it's General Mills. They're really good at that, asking that question. So if you can be really good at asking similar questions for what you're doing, you'll discover something that the other folks haven't. The best thing is a compost that will make a difference. Anything that grows. If it grows, that's, my pet phrase, one of them, if it grows, it goes. Really simple, right? Doesn't it kind of turn into soil in a landfill? Well, it does, but it's different. It's just reality. Methane happens in a variety of ways. And then the other over here, what can the single person do? Okay? They can buy less packaging, they can buy less plastic, they can compost their food scraps.
Yeah.
That's what they're not doing in the press. They had this opportunity, I heard something today, the same thing. They had this opportunity to talk about how the folks who are listening to the radio, NPR, public radio stations, even the other, just regular news. It's on the news. And they had this opportunity to get the viewer or the listener to kind of take some action. Versus, that's some sort of big picture in the sky thing that's going on. How can I help make an impact on that? How do you think the stuff gets to the landfill, for God's sake?
Yeah.
Some big truck from some big corporation out there that creates most of it? No, man. I mean, just in Columbus, 90,000 tons comes from residents
Yeah.
About 110,000 comes from commercial, but still it's about half. You know, banana peels, apple cores, all that stuff goes in the trash, right? Oh yeah, it does, yeah. But I'm just a lowly one individual in my house. It's called empowerment. You should use that a lot. Regular curbside, and then there's citywide curbside.
Oh, yeah.
Citywide's
Okay.
cheaper because it's more dense.
Got
The
it.
denser the members, the more efficient the route, the less expensive it is for us to collect it. This isn't about making money, it's about getting everybody to put their food scraps in the yellow bucket. How? Make it easy, convenient, and cheap. Or cheaper, cheapest, to be clear about it. And then, like in Bexley, about $6.50 is what most cities will pay to have their residents, right? But in most cities, unlike Bexley, this is the reason why Bexley works. A little story for you at the end is that you just don't get a bucket. In most cities, it's we've adopted curbside. All right, everybody gets a bucket, and then you have lots of contamination and lots of non-use of the bucket. With Bexley, only the folks who sign up for it get a bucket. That's the secret. How many pounds of stuff that shouldn't be in that bucket goes in the bucket? How many pounds do you think? Or percentage-wise? 10,000 pounds, and I can tell you this because of experience, okay? Less than 2 pounds is bad.
Do you think that's because of your yes/no label?
No, it's because the folks who are doing it want to.
Want to actually?
That's why Bexley works.
Okay.
Is that the folks who don't want to do it don't go fine. You know,
Yeah.
the folks who do it, they're 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not God's gift to anything. I'm just a guy with an idea. And I'm not going to give up. You know, my 10 brothers and sisters that keep telling me, Ray, it's time to retire. We're kind of, my older ones were retired. Right? I'm not done yet.
We can include all your info on the website, and so that we can spread it to everyone else and teach everyone else about how composting and the Compost Exchange itself can really benefit the environment and their overall living.